Okay, hello. We should be live. I was just checking everything on my phone. Happy Saturday. Welcome to hold on, I brought the books. Wicked Souls spoilery live show. I have a cat here who's going to be helping us today. Yeah, so this live show is going to have spoilers for book 2, so inevitably also spoilers for book 1. If you haven't read the books, I would recommend reading them and then coming back. I really don't want to spoil everything for you, so please don't stay. Come back afterwards. Welcome. I hope you guys are having a great start to your new year. A great start to your weekend. Happy Saturday. We're going to be sharing my morning coffee together. And I don't know how long Dean's going to stay with us, but he's been insisting. Be watching it in a later time, 2 a.m. for me when it goes live. Looking forward to the rewatch. Hope you're having a lovely day. Yeah, the first book we did, I think, the live show at night, so I figured we would try something in the morning here, give different people a chance to actually be here for when it's live. Got the book January 4th, luckily finished. That's fast for a long book. I'm impressed that you managed to finish it in time. Hey, Sam. Good. I walked to Starbucks to get a little bit of movement this morning. We got a nice coffee. It's been a good morning so far. Yeah, it's always all about Dean. He definitely thinks he's the star of the show. So just like with the first live, I'm kind of going to let you guys guide this. So if you have any questions, again, anything is, sorry, his hair is everywhere, up for whatever. We've got spoilers and stuff in here, so you can ask whatever you want. If you weren't able to make it to the first live, feel free to ask questions about the first book too. And then I put up a questions box on Instagram for people who wouldn't be able to make the live if they had questions, so we'll get to those too. Hello, glad you guys could make it. We're just gonna give it a few minutes, let people get their notifications, get in here and stuff. What are you guys up to for this Saturday? Are you doing anything fun? I'd also be curious to know how you read the book. Did you read the ebook, the paperback, the audiobook? Let me know. I actually do have some questions for you guys, but I'll wait until we get a little bit further into it instead of bombarding you with them all at the beginning. Did you know from book 1 that James Westcott was her dad? Did I know that? I actually don't know if I knew that yet or not. It's funny, I was looking through my old notes, so I would I wish I had a better memory for these kinds of things. The really brief outline that I first wrote for myself for the series, I just did literally a sentence for each book, so I knew what the focus was going to be. So for book 1, the only thing that I had written was Marionette's initiation. So I guess I did know, because for book 2, I said summer break, Wendigo psychosis, plant seeds for, I'm not going to tell you what that is because that happens in book 3. Cliffhanger, James Westcott will heal her. It's her dad in parentheses, but she has to come with him and everyone will think she's dead. So that was my little summary of book 2. That's all I knew going into it. So I guess I did know that he was going to be her dad. So hopefully you're not here if you haven't read the book, because that's everything right there. I hate Amy. I finally made it to one of these. Unfortunately, I can't stay long, but we'll definitely be rewatching this. Welcome. I'm glad you could join us for a little bit. Henry and I are sick in bed, but still glad to be here. Oh no, I hope it's not COVID. I hope you're doing okay. How's Belle? I redid my home office and I'm just organizing now. Also currently reading Wicked Souls. Well, I just spoiled everything for you. But I'm glad you could make it. You read the paperback. Nice. So he's breathing heavily and that's all I hear in my ear. I know. You're fine. Maybe we'll get him some treats, so he'll leave us alone for a little bit. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I would also like to know what scenes you really liked in the book. If you missed the announcement video about the special edition hardcover of the Marionettes, there is a bonus scene from Maria's point of view in that book, and I chose that scene because that was everyone's request. That was everyone's favorite scene. So when I do the hardcover for Wicked Souls, I would like to have some kind of bonus material in the back of that as well, so it's also exciting. So I do base that off of the scenes that people are requesting and stuff. So if you have specific scenes that you would love to see from his point of view once the hardcover comes out, feel free to let me know. Are we in upcoming books going to learn more about lunar witches? Yes, you'll definitely be learning a lot more about basically everything, all of the different kinds of witches, all of the different kinds of creatures in upcoming books, but there will definitely be more information on lunar witches coming up. Belle bit Henry's put me to sleep last night, so she does not care. Henry tested negative, and I'm still waiting for my results. Oh no, well, I hope you guys feel better soon. I swore to myself I would outline my current project, but I found myself pantsing. The writing is going through my well now. Happy to hear your books to do so. Thank you. Yeah, I have like loose outlines of the books, but things always end up changing as I start writing them. I reread the ebook since I was waiting on my physical copy. It took me 2-3 days, I think. Quick. It's fast. I can read this in like one sitting because it's my book when I'm like trying to refamiliarize myself with it or something. But if it was someone else's book, a book this length, I don't think I could read it that fast anymore. I'm not much of a binge reader anymore. Drunk Valerie and Confused Reed is still the best thing ever. That's one of my favorite scenes, for sure. For sure. It's a lot longer now in the final version than it was to begin with, because one of my beta readers, Lydia, and I were talking about it. She was like, I would read 20 pages of this scene. So she convinced me to make it longer, and I like it a lot more now. I'm so curious to know what the horoscopes are for the main cast and whether that was ever influenced their character traits or habits. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I did this for book 1. I sat down and I listed them all out. I wonder if I could find my list. Because I did do this just for fun, but I don't remember what they were. Okay. Oh, did I not do one for Valerie? I don't know. See, I don't know enough about astrology. I just find it kind of interesting. So if anyone who's like super into it, who like knows the personality traits and stuff that go with which ones do you think they would fit? Let me know. Because I made this note back in like May. So I don't know what my thought process was for this. I can't remember, but I had Monroe as a Taurus, Kirby as a Capricorn, Reed as a Scorpio, and Valerie as a Virgo. That was originally what I had. I can't remember why. Like I said, I don't know enough about astrology for what that means. I probably like Googled it. I don't know. But for all of my astrology people, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Did it influence their character traits or habits? No, it was more like I had already established the characters. So then I was like kind of curious which ones they would fit. So I think I added that after the fact, after I'd already written book 1. So it wasn't like a direct influence. But yeah. Let me double check our Instagram story to see what questions we have, because I know there were at least a few. Shipping Monroe and Kirby. Me too. I think they're cute. I thought it was like pretty obvious that was the direction it was going, and then people were pretty surprised by that. Hey Jesse, how's it going? I know Val is a halfling, but she part Wendigo too, or is she just going crazy? That was another question someone did ask about the Wendigos, so we will talk more about that later. Not part Wendigo, no. Going crazy, the latter, yes. Absolutely love the book. Just finished the book before the live stream. Good timing. Good timing. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I just checked the highlights in my ebook, and I have a comment in there that says, I appreciate Belle's stubbornness in some scenes. She is definitely one of the most stubborn characters I've ever written. I think her and Joe in the anti-relationship year have a lot in common, personality-wise. Also, what do you as an indie author think of a fan potentially writing fan fiction of your book series? I mean, that would be like the greatest compliment. That would be amazing. I wouldn't read it though. I would be curious. I would want to, but especially while I'm still writing the series, I like wouldn't want anyone else's stuff in my head while I'm trying to write it. So, but I mean, that'd be cool. So that's what I think. He's kind of what I think of when I think of Scorpio. I had to add characters. So you had all the characters planned from day one? Oh, absolutely not. A lot of characters absolutely just like walked onto the page and surprised me. Trying to think of any in particular. Well, a lot of characters, they were just kind of small side characters, almost like extras in the rough draft, and then they ended up becoming more important. So like Daniel and Wes and Beth and like all of her classmates, they really weren't a big deal in the rough draft. Then they became bigger characters as time went on. Trying not to spoil things. I'm like trying to remember what happens in book 2 and what happens in book 3 because I'm writing book 3 right now. So there are a lot of characters who I figured out later. I didn't know everyone immediately. Connor leaping pumpkin. I am glad because Connor seems to be a very polarizing thing. Some people do not care about him at all and like are so annoyed by him, and then some people really like him. So he's for some reason the one character who like I feel like it's the most opposite opinions. Where are you going? No, you cannot have my coffee. Rita's a Scorpio makes so much sense. Okay, I'm glad that that one seems to fit. I wanted to punch Connor in the face. Fair. Are you still thinking the series might be more than 4 books? I wish I knew. I don't know. I'm still working on book 3 and it's just turning into such like a monster of a book. However, I can't figure out where I want to end book 3. Not that like I don't know what's going to happen, I do, but I don't know if it is that going to be the end for book 3. Should I end it earlier? Should I end it later? So I'm kind of trying to figure out where the cutoff points for the books are going to be, especially because book 3 is going to be so long. So once I figure out what the full arc of book 3 will be, I think that'll help determine the later books. We'll see. We'll see. The scenes of Val stressing out over losing control and attacking people were written so well I could feel her anxiety and so much stress. Thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely not something I have personal experience with in murdering people, so it was an interesting headspace to get into. All right, I'm gonna look at some Instagram questions, but feel free to keep going in the chat. Someone asked about the name being the marionettes. Is that linked to a marionette puppet? Queen is pulling the strings, etc. Yes, but the name, the marionettes, and the title of the marionettes comes from like a long, weird story. I've kind of talked about it before. I wrote a book. So I wrote the marionettes in NaNoWriMo of 2020, but I wrote another book in NaNoWriMo of 2019, and that book will never see the light of day. I actually talk about this a little bit in the hardcover exclusives, but that awful book that will never see the light of day from 2019 was actually called Marionettes at Midnight. And I don't really know how to explain it without just like going too much into what that book used to be. So Marionettes kind of originated from that, and then I ended up like really twisting the idea down to where the Marionettes is now. But yes, originally the Marionettes came from the idea of like puppets and everything. A scene you had to cut but wish you didn't. I don't typically cut a lot of scenes because I'm such an underwriter. I tend to add a lot of scenes. Sometimes I combine scenes, but I very rarely cut something out altogether. But there were 2 scenes that I almost cut that I didn't cut because I really didn't want to, and it would have made me sad to cut them. So basically, they didn't have enough of a purpose as they were originally to stand in the story, which is why I was thinking I needed to cut them. So I added a lot to them to make them more important and to make them connect to more things happening in the book in order to justify keeping them. So the pottery scene with Reed almost needed to get cut. And I really liked that. And so my way of being able to keep that in the book was I added a lot of conversation between him and Valerie to reveal a lot of information in that scene to make it more relevant. Otherwise, that scene was going to be cut, which would have made me sad because I liked it. And then the scene with Daniel and Daniel's friends and like the bowling and everything. Originally, I was thinking I needed to incorporate his friends more into the book because it just felt like it just didn't fit. It just kind of like stuck out. So the whole second part of that chapter with Valerie in like the bathroom and with Daniel and him finding out about what's going on with her, that was added, and the whole thing with Winnie was added. So basically, I just had scenes that weren't relevant enough to begin with, so I needed to add more ties to other parts of the books to justify keeping them. But I can't really remember anything I specifically cut all the way. I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't think about on the spot. I also just like can't remember. I have such a bad memory. Yeah, there was just a lot of things that ended up being like combined. Original, like the whole storyline with the tattoos and the werewolves and the professor and the information and going back and questioning him, that was all added and kind of like weaved together with something else that used to be there. So I don't really know how to explain it. It's complicated and it was messy to revise. If you can remember paperweight to use for the pages, I have no idea. It's whatever the standard setting is for the different distribution things. My self-inflicted NaNoWriMo was driving me bonkers. I don't understand how people do NaNoWriMo. I'm 8,000 words behind my goal. How did it not stress you out, or did it? I've been doing NaNoWriMo since I was in high school. I do the camps and the regular ones, so I don't know what it is. I think some people just write faster than others, and for some people, it's not much of a challenge and they just write like that. If it's not working for you, that's totally valid too. Some people just don't write that much in a day. So, I'm trying to think if I have any like advice or anything. I don't really have any. I think overthinking it also can be hard if you're just like thinking too much about the words. So a lot of people with NaNoWriMo, they just do like sprints and they just try and get it on the page. And then some people are like, I don't want to write something that's going to be messy. So I'd rather like really think it through and take a longer time. So if you're that second person, like that's totally fine too. And you just write a little bit slower. So sometimes for NaNoWriMo, I'll just tweak the word count goal. Like for this most recent one, I was writing Bloodless Ties and I just wanted to get the first 30,000 words of the manuscript done so I could get a start in the book. So I only wrote like 1,000 words a day and that was more manageable just with everything else that was going on. I was so satisfied with the information we finally got in the pottery scene, so I'm glad you kept it. Thank you. This is one of my beta readers, if you didn't know. She's fabulous. You're fabulous. I'm glad you could be here. What was the hardest section to revise or get right? Act 2 for this book in general was a challenge. I'm gonna have to like look at the book and try to remember. Like I said, the whole like professor werewolves tattoo getting information thing, that ended up being a whole thing. I don't know if it was like anything in particular. It was just like a million moving pieces that I had to figure out how to fit together. Actually, no, that's wrong. I remember the hardest part. The hardest thing was the transition of Valerie's feelings towards Connor. I struggled with that so much, and like getting the right balance of her feeling guilty and also like being hurt, and then also like trying to be understanding that he wasn't trying to hurt her, and like figuring out how to navigate her feelings towards him, how she reacted to what he was doing, and then also her progressing relationship with Reed alongside her processing what's happening with Connor. So this emotional arc with these different characters, it was a mess. And it was just very, very challenging. What are your best tips for writing a male point of view for the first time as a female author? I've never really had many male friends, and I feel as if my male characters' inner voices are exaggerated. I am actually in the exact same boat as you because, I mean, sneak peek, book 3 for the Marionettes has Reed's point of view in it. So I've been struggling to write his point of view chapters because this is actually something as a reader that I don't like, is when an author suddenly gives us the love interest point of view and then I don't like them as much now that I've read from their point of view. So I'm really nervous I'm going to write Reed's point of view and then people aren't going to like Reed as much because I botched his point of view. And then I'm also writing a standalone that has the male point of view. So maybe ask me again once I finish these 2 books where I'm doing it and we'll see how I manage to get through that. but you're not alone. I'm also struggling with that. I think one thing I've been doing that's been helpful is I've been reading other books with male point of views that I like, that I think do it well. And it's just nice to have various different examples of other female authors who've done it. And there have been examples of books I'm like, oh, I don't really love how they did that. So I would recommend seeking out books that have that you specifically enjoy that aspect of it. That's what I've been doing. How was it to get beta reader feedback for chapter 25? So chapter 25, originally, actually, I can't remember what state it was in when I sent it to beta readers. When I first sent it to Lydia, the book was like half the size it is now. And I feel like the whole second part of the scene in the bathroom wasn't in that first draft. It was just the part in the bed, and then it stopped there. I can't remember when I sent it the second time where it was at. So I added that later. Lydia definitely got the full thing later. Such a bad memory. But what was it like to get feedback for chapter 25 in general? Luckily, my beta readers are, I don't know, I feel like we have like a nice, friendly kind of relationship, so I feel comfortable letting them read that. And they've also read my other books where there's like variations of that kind of scene, obviously not that in depth. So because I know my beta readers pretty well, we've worked together on some projects before, it wasn't like I was sending it to a stranger. So I feel like that was why I wasn't like dreading it. I was dreading my mom reading it, and I told her to skip that chapter, and then she didn't. So getting the feedback, I was nervous it was going to be like, oh, this is kind of like cringy. This isn't good. So I was relieved when they were excited about the scene and that they liked it, that maybe, other people would like it. So it was actually helpful to get an early opinion of that chapter and whether I just needed to totally cut it or if it was something that needed to stay. Because I was just kind of like hesitant to keep that chapter in the book at all. Yeah, it's just complicated, and it continues to get complicated in book 3, and it's just like, it's a mess. All of the emotional stuff is a mess. That makes a ton of sense, and I wish I thought of just doing sprints. It could also be gibberish, I guess. Is that what you're saying? I obsess badly over word count. Yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about the word count. If word count goals aren't helpful for you either, you could also do like, I want to write for an hour every day, or I want to do like, I want to sit down and write this many times in a day. So you can try other kinds of goals too if word count it just isn't working for you. Did you already know this from the very beginning that the mysterious guy they wanted to find was Valerie's dad? That's caught me so off guard. Yes, I found that out. I don't know if I knew when I was writing the rough draft of book 1, but by the time I was revising book 1, I'd figured that out. How did your mom react to that scene? She didn't tell me. I didn't ask. She told me that she read it. And I was like, Mom, I told you to skip it. She was like, eh. So I don't really remember exactly what she said. I think she said, you had some mommy porn in there. That was the only comment I got on that. And then I did not ask for her thoughts because I didn't want to know. I'm so glad you came along version of chapter 25. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. I feel like I've like worked my way up to it because each of my books has had like some kind of, not each of them, the Anti-Relationship Year, the Marionettes, and Wicked Souls. It's like gotten progressively more each time, so I didn't like jump in head first. I got to kind of work my way up to it. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit. All right, let me see if there were any more questions from Instagram. Biggest surprise with this release, that the book sold well, honestly. With it being the second book in a series and the first book came out recently, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be low numbers. And also because the last time I released a sequel was the Anti-Relationship Year. Even though they're standalones, they're connected with like a sequel. So that book, it didn't sell terribly, but it didn't sell like as well as like the first book did, or like standalones do for me. So I was kind of expecting the same thing, and that was not the case with this book. So that was definitely a pleasant surprise. Are you definitely not going to make a hardcover for book 1? Oh, you should go see my latest YouTube video announcement. That's the secret project. It's a special edition hardcover for book 1. It's coming out next month. Can we expect something unexpected with Val's mom? Well, if I tell you, then it's not gonna be unexpected. You will see more from her. Things are not resolved there, so you will definitely see more there. Then I had someone ask, what made you choose Wendigos for the story? So I don't want to bore you. This could be a really long explanation. So if you don't know much about Wendigos, I actually highly encourage you to do some research on them. I think they are fascinating. It's just like a really interesting creature to me. So they're actually, most of the legends kind of like originate in like Canada, northern, eastern United States, and they're like mainly associated with Native Americans. And so I don't know how much I want to get into it. So part of my family is actually Native American. And that's a side of my family that my grandmother's side of my family that I feel like I don't talk about very much. But yeah, when I was in like elementary school, I don't know if you guys ever had to do like that project where you have to like figure out where all of your ancestors are from and like what percentage you are of everything. And one of my early memories as a kid is being like, oh yeah, I'm part Native American and I'm part Mexican, and people like giving me a hard time for that. And me not like understanding at the time why that was happening. So then I like didn't really talk about it for a while. And then as an adult, I realized like, oh, no, it was like shitty for people to like give me a hard time about that as a kid. That's actually like really cool. So I've always, as an adult, I've become a lot more interested in Native American legends and myths and stuff like that. Cause it's like, I don't know. It's a way that I'm able to like learn more about that part of my family, which I think is really cool. So Wendigos in particular, I feel like are a really interesting character. And then it also felt kind of personal for me to include stuff like that in the story. It's like a way that I've been able to hold space for that part of my identity that I haven't been able to in the past. It sounds kind of cheesy. I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, that's part of the reason. I also just think they're really interesting. They're really cool. Would recommend researching them if you haven't. Wendigo psychosis is actually a thing, which I didn't know about until I started researching. So that was fast. Not in the way that it's portrayed in the book, obviously, but those legends also don't account for vampires or witches being infected. So I just found that was like a research rabbit hole that I fell down with this book. Was super interesting. I really thought The Secret Project was going to be like a novella for the series. That's a good guess. That's a good guess for sure. Do you think you'll make a hardcover for Wicked Souls too? Yeah, so I'm planning on having the hardcover come out sometime before Bloodless Ties. I haven't figured out when, but sometime this year with the move and everything coming up. Who knows? I'm trying to have 5 books come out this year, which is going to be a lot to juggle. So we've got Marionette's hardcover coming out. Then I have Bloodless Ties, the standalone I'm still working on. I have decided to go ahead with my 3rd poetry collection. And then I also want to get Wicked Souls' hardcover out. So sometime this year, before November, is the plan. When I figure it out, you'll be the first to know. What helped you develop the magic system? I think it's so interesting. Any specific influences? I don't know. I think it was trial and error, and also my beta readers helped a lot with this and like reading the rough drafts, and whenever they would ask me a question like, how does this work? I'm like, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. So I felt like it's kind of been something that built on each other. It's not something that I figured out all at once. It was, as I was writing the rough draft, it just kind of came together pretty naturally, I think. Did you have any names for the characters that you almost used? Oh my gosh, you guys are going to get like all of the bonus content early because these are all like fun facts that I put in the back of the hardcover. So yeah, Valerie's name actually was originally Valeria. And I have a whole list somewhere if I could remember where it is. So basically, before I start a book, I come up with a list of all of these names that I like, and then I will write a chapter or 2, and I'll try different names for the different characters to see which ones fit. So a lot of characters had different names originally that I like tried out. I think Reed was always Reed though. And Kirby, Monroe, and Connor came from a different book. Their characters, like, completely. The book died, but I didn't want to lose those characters, so I literally pulled them out of that book and put them in here, so their names haven't changed. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've been working on it a lot lately. My cover designer is going to get started on it this month. And yeah, it's been fun to work on. It has a lot of the same poems that it originally did, but I kind of took a page out of Taylor Swift's book and I decided to play around with like poems that aren't about me. And it was actually really fun to kind of write poems from like the perspectives of like my characters and like things like that. So it's a really different collection and I think it'll be, I don't know, fun if you've read my books. I hope you guys end up liking it. It was really fun. I'm really enjoying it. I think those were all the questions that I got on Instagram. Let me double check. Yeah, okay. So we're good over there. I'm trying to remember what questions I asked you guys in the first live. I think I asked you what your favorite scenes were, which I would still like to know. What scenes would you most like to see from Reed's point of view in the Wicked Souls hardcover? Because I haven't decided on which bonus scene that'll be just yet. Did anything surprise you? Did you call any of the twists? Did you have any theories that didn't work out? We're very daring with the gradient, Valerie. Got out of hand. It shocked me in a good way. As not many people go that far. Was that planned or spontaneous? So that was one of the few things that I knew about book 2 going into it, was like I wanted this to be like Valerie's like rock bottom, just like a complete spiral out of control, almost her like becoming the villain, like a very negative arc. So I definitely knew that about book 2. That was kind of like, I don't know, like the theme, like the whole vibe that book 2 centered around, and then I kind of built the plot around that. So that was the first thing that I knew about book 2 for sure. That, and then the twist at the end and the ending. Those were the 3 things that I knew about book 2 before I wrote it. Everything else almost pretty much came as a surprise to me. Trying to think if there's like anything else that you might want to know about the book and the process, but I can't think of anything. At least not right now. I'm really bad about thinking on the spot. It's like I said, I'm writing book 3 and it's been difficult to remember what happens in which book. If you have questions about book 3, I don't know how much I can answer. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you have questions, feel free to answer, or feel free to ask and I will answer at my discretion. Did you take inspiration from Sarah J. Maas for the broken bond thing? Not specifically. I actually forgot that was in those books. I haven't read those in a long time. But now that you're saying that, yeah, that is in that book too. Will you be vlogging while you write book 3? So I am writing book 3 right now. I'm like probably halfway through. There will be vlogs at some point, probably, but I'm not like specifically vlogging the process. Can we know if there was a specific reason why Connor stopped feeling for Val? Did he in reality not like her? So you will get more on this situation. This is not resolved, okay? You will learn more about this in book 3. That's all I'm going to say. How was it writing a sex scene? Interesting. I actually like edited that scene probably more than any other in the book. I was a lot pickier with word choice in that scene than any other scene. And yeah, like I said, I had like milder versions in my previous book, so I feel like I kind of worked my way up to this one, which was helpful. It's still odd, and it's still like I don't want to sit down and reread it. I don't want to listen to the audiobook version of this scene, but other people seem to be liking it, so I'm happy. I remember during book 1's live, you mentioned how Val goes through the ringer in book 2, but man, I was not expecting that. I'm trying not to spoil things. I don't know how much I want to tell you, but things don't get that much better in book 3. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. Uh, book 2 and book 3, I kind of picture the series as like things are like status quo, pretty normal. Things are starting to get a little weird at book 1. Book 2 and book 3 are like the bottom of the thing. Book 4 is when things are gonna start calming down a little bit. But yeah, we're not done with the not great things happening to her, unfortunately. However, book 3 has some stuff in it that I'm also really, really exciting. At least you're honest. Yeah. There's some good things in book 3 too. There are some things that I think will make you very happy. Sounds exciting. I'm glad. How many books are there going to be? I don't know. At least 4. I have the first 4 covers made. But possibly more. We'll see. Does the violin have more significance than we realize? Oh. I don't know. There's like a really weird balance here of like not spoiling, and I want to give you guys sneak peeks because I'm also bad at keeping secrets, and I just want to tell you everything. Yes, the violin is significant. I'm not going to tell you why, but there is nothing in this book or the first book, no sentence that I didn't put in there intentionally. There's no detail in there that is not intentional. So if you go back through the book and you look at all of the details and all of the things, a lot of what is coming in book 3 is hinted at in book 2. So you already actually know more than you think you do. I love that Reed is the calm to Val's mess. I love that. That's a good way of thinking of it. He is far too calm. I could never. How are you doing with the burnout with book 3? Hopefully we don't put you under much pressure to advance your mental health. It's actually going pretty well. I kind of just realized this rough draft is going to take me longer to write than the other one. So it's kind of been a slow and steady thing. I'm hoping to hit 50K here pretty soon, and it's going pretty well. I think the fact that I set the release date for November is good because like there's no way I'm not going to finish this book within the next 11 months. Like I'm not worried about it, so it should be fine. Made me so happy when Reed came back for Val when she was locked up. Me too. That was one of my mom's comments on the first book when Val was kidnapped and she was like tied in the room with the Russians and everything. She was like, I was so sad that he didn't come for her. I don't know why that's what I think about now when I have this scene in book 2. I feel like they kind of relate. My mom is so cute. She's like the ultimate fangirl for these books. It's been funny. If you have any other questions, let me know. But I think that covers everything that I was going to talk about with book 2. I think. If you have any other requests for bonus content that you would like to see in the hardcover for Wicked Souls when it comes out, feel free to let me know. You might have a better idea after book 1's hardcover comes out and you see what kind of bonus content is in there. But scenes you want to see in Reed's point of view or anything like that. Does my brother read my books? Not that I know of. My brother is not much of a reader of novels. I don't know. My brother is an interesting one. Trying to get information from him is like pulling teeth. Like what did you do today? It's like, what have you been up to? So like, I don't know what he does with his days. He could very well be reading my books and I don't know. He has like a secret life that none of us know about. No one knows what he does. Is there a character that seems evil but is kind of not? No one is what they seem in this series. No one is black and white. So I think all of the characters have a little bit of good and evil in them. I'll have to go through my highlights to see what I'd want to see through Reed's point of view. I have some ideas. I have like my favorite chapters, but sometimes my favorites don't translate to reader favorites. So, like in book one, it was a surprise what people were highlighting and what their favorites and stuff were. So, it's interesting for me to see what people connect with because it's not always what I expect it to be. Yeah, they're fun. It's I enjoy doing them because I work on these books for so long, and then I can't really talk about them with very many people because people haven't read the books yet and I don't want to spoil them. So it really comes down to where I like talk to them or I talk about them with my beta readers while we're editing them. But then other than that, I don't really get to go into like the little details and such. So it is fun. As I read, I kept referencing You're Ready where you listed your favorite chapters. I agree with all of them. I'm glad you liked them too. I feel like it's just like clear which ones are my favorite. I love the moments with Valerie and Reed, and then I also love the scenes that I feel like are gonna have the most emotional impact on a reader, like the scenes that are going to surprise you, or the ones where bad things are typically happening to my main character, so there's, like, a lot of tension. So, I think it's pretty clear where my preferences lie. How do you choose your point of view for novels? Third person, first person? So, it really comes down to kind of like an instinctual thing. I'll usually just sit down and start writing a book, and it'll just come out one way or another, and that's what feels the most natural for that book. So it's usually not a conscious decision. I feel like the only time I would make like a really conscious choice for that is if I was going to have several point of view characters. I would be more hesitant to write in first person, um, just because it would be difficult to distinguish the voices. You would really want to focus on having a different voice and a different writing style for each character. It might be confusing for the reader. So if there's multiple point of views, I would probably be more inclined to use third person. But then the anti-relationship year is um, one character's point of view and it's in third person. But it's also two alternating timelines. So maybe that's why I did that. I don't know. It's just what felt natural for that book. I'd love to see a Kirby and Monroe side scene. That's funny. Someone earlier in the chat was saying they thought my secret project was going to be a novella. I have toyed with the idea of writing something about like Kirby while she's away because she's not in the second book like at all or something. So we might get some side stories eventually. Something just like random that we'd never have seen or known about from just reading book two. That's so vague, Sam Bourbon. I have to think about it. Mm, there's just a lot in book two that wasn't there originally. The rough draft was literally half the size. I mean, that was the same case for book one too. So, Magnolia. I love Magnolia. Hmm. I wish I had something like shocking or surprising to tell you. The whole scene with Valerie basically torturing this werewolf in the tattoo shop that ended up getting added pretty late in the game. It actually solved another problem that I was having in the manuscript. So it was like a two birds, one stone kind of thing. And now it's one of my favorite scenes. She's like completely unhinged in this scene, but it's one of my favorites now. So I'm glad that that got added. Mm, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of something good. If I come up with something, I'll let you know. Were there any points in book two where you had a plan, but the scene went off course and you liked it better that way? All the time. All the time. Hmm. I'm trying to think of something specific. A lot of it just wasn't planned. Like I was saying, I really like Magnolia. And so I knew Valerie was gonna go back to the academy, and that whole part of the book I really pantsed. I didn't have much of an outline. I just kind of started writing to see where it was gonna go, thinking I might end up just cutting all of this. So she's, like, talking with Monroe. I thought this might be a good chance to get, her thoughts on everything and let her process everything that's going on, and then Monroe's like, "I have an idea," and then we have Magnolia get introduced. That wasn't planned, and then that ended up being the perfect opportunity to kind of plant this seed about the blood deals. So that kind of all just fell into place really well, even though that wasn't really planned. Oh God, drop some ideas. Which book has been your favorite to write so far from the series? Book 1 was really fun because at that point there weren't any expectations. No one had read it. No one was waiting for the next book. So I don't feel like I was thinking about anything other than I'm writing a book that I want to read. This is really fun for me. So, but book 1 was also really hard to revise. Book 2, I'm really proud of the way that it's turned out. It was also really hard to write. And then book 3, I have in my head this like perfect image of it that I want to get it to. And I think book 3 will end up being my favorite once I get it there, but I'm struggling my way through the rough draft right now. So the actual process of writing, I think the first was my favorite, but I think the third will end up being my favorite final product once I'm done with it. What is your favorite trope that you decided to use in these books? I love slow burn romances. So even Valerie and Reed not getting together until the end of book 2, I still felt like that was too fast. I was still like trying to think if I could like drag it out a little bit longer. So I'm all for the like agonizingly slow burns. I'd be curious to know for you guys, what are some of your favorite tropes in the book? I'm trying to even think of like what tropes are in the books. Let me know. Have we seen the character that you were really excited about, or will they appear in book 3? They will appear in book 3, but they have been mentioned, so you do know who they are. Do we have any Easter eggs in book 1 or book 2? Any cast members named after a beta reader or something like that? I would love to become a villain in one of your books. That's my creepiest comment ever. No, I don't think so. None that like relate to like real life. I don't usually name characters after people because then I have like the person in my head that kind of conflicts with the character that I'm building because then I feel like the character starts to have their personality and stuff. Like I like having completely fictional people. So I actually will not choose names for characters if I know someone with that name because it kind of just like gets muddled in my head. So I specifically look for names for people that like I don't associate with a person. But there's plenty of like Easter eggs. Actually, that's a different book. The standalone I'm writing has an Easter egg for the anti-relationship year, which I think will be fun. I'll see if I can think of anything else. Supposed to be a thought. A scene from Kirby Monroe, that is something we wouldn't have known just by reading book 2 alone. A scene from Kirby and Monroe. I'm gonna have to think about it. These are good questions, but they're things I haven't thought about yet, so now I'm gonna have to think about it. I eat up Grumpy and Sunshine Room. That's probably my favorite trope. That seems to be really popular right now, too. Do you have an idea yet of when Bloodless Ties will be available for pre-order? So the ebook is available for pre-order, and I have the file. The thing is, I can't set the paperback up for pre-order without you being able to see the cover because I have to upload the cover file in order to set up the pre-order, and I haven't done the cover reveal yet. So I have the file. I just haven't decided when I'm going to do the cover reveal yet. So as soon as I do the cover reveal, I will upload the file, and then you'll be able to pre-order the paperback. And I'll just kind of relies on each other. So I want to at least wait until the hardcover of Marionettes comes out before doing the cover reveal. But I was planning on waiting until later in the year because the book doesn't come out until November, but I'm impatient and will probably do it within the next couple of months. Since you've published 2 books in this series, is there anything you regret? That's a good question. Nothing yet. I feel like as I'm getting further into the series, because ideas always come to me just so randomly, like, oh, this detail will fix that problem and how things come together. I am very nervous that I'm going to come up with some kind of like amazing fix or twist or something that I didn't set up for. So that's why I really tried to outline things ahead of time. That's why I wrote book one and book two before releasing book one. So there were things that I went back to book one to add in order to set up for book two that weren't there yet. So I'm really glad I waited to publish book one until I had already written book two. So I am nervous that that might happen in the future. But so far, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of thinking far enough ahead that I've managed to set up for everything that I want to happen. So I think it's inevitable at some point I'm going to come up with some kind of brilliant idea. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had set up for that in book one. But we'll figure it out. But other than that, anything I regret? Not really. I'm so pleased with how everything's gone with this series. Um, I don't know. I think everything's gone really well. Better than I could have expected. My favorite trope: slow burn, forced proximity, bodyguard romance, forbidden love. I also love forced proximity and slow burn. I don't think I've read very many bodyguard romances, even though I'm writing one right now. Forbidden love is also usually pretty good. Would you be willing to hint at what the cover of book three might be? Like, book two was a skull. What's the main theme? I love covers. So if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you guys have already seen book three's cover, actually. I have a print of it right here, so that's what I'm looking at. Also a bit of the plot. So book three, I mean, it goes well with the other books, but I think the main difference for this one is this cover has some green on it. The other ones don't have green. Yeah. Otherwise, the color scheme is the same, and then it's got a pop of green. A bit of the plot. So I already told you you're going to get Reed's point of view in this book. So I think that'll be fun. This book is also split into different parts, you know, where it's like part one, part two. So that's different. It's going to be so long. You'll learn a lot more about werewolves in this book. And you'll just learn more about the world outside of the regions that the vampires run, beyond the borders. You'll get a much more in-depth taste of what things are like outside. And this one is steamier than book two, by far. That's all I got. The cover for book three is just stunning. I'm glad you like it. I'm sorry, I'm like keep looking at it. I love it so much. I think it's super cute. I cannot wait to share book four's cover. That one I think is my favorite of the four, actually. However, I can't remember where I was talking about this. Maybe it was on Patreon, maybe it was on here. Book four, I have the cover, but it might not end up being the cover for book four because the title is what I want the title of the last book of the series to be. So if the series ends up being longer than 4 books, I'm still going to keep that cover, but that will be the cover of the last book in the series. So if I end up being 5 books, I'm going to need a new cover for book 4 instead. If you could choose an estate to reside at if you were in this world, which one would it be? Interesting. That's another thing I'm really looking forward to with future books, is getting to explore some more of the different estates. But I mean, honestly, I don't think I would want to be at any of them because they're specifically located to be in the places that get the least amount of sun for the vampires. So I don't think I would like that. But I mean, I really, really like Sweden. Stockholm is one of my favorite places that I've ever visited. So I feel like I might want to be at the Swedish estate, or maybe in Norway. Or maybe in Thailand. I would love to go to Thailand. I was hoping to get more of an understanding of the Marionettes in general, like how they came to be, what the history was. Will we get more of that? Yes, definitely. You will definitely be getting more. Don't worry, Steve. I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm trying so hard. this is dangerous for me because I just want to tell everyone everything. I really like the book 3 cover. I'm excited to see the book cover. I hope you guys love it. I think it's really pretty. Oh, absolutely not. I have zero artistic um, abilities. No, my cover designer, her name is Steph, and she has done a great job. It's funny, my cover designer's name is Steph, and my audiobook narrator's name is Steph. What has surprised you the most about writing a series? Well, mm, I was expecting it to be really challenging because I've never written a series before, and it has been really challenging, but I haven't run into like any challenges that are so bad that like I can't get over them. So I don't know. I've been like, um, I don't know. I don't want to say I expected it to be harder because I feel like knock on wood, like I don't want to put that into the universe, but it hasn't been as challenging as I thought it was gonna be, but it has been quite challenging. Um, I'm also someone I don't like change. Like I have a hard time with things ending, which is why I rewatch shows a million times because I like being able to go back to the beginning before everything's changed and all the characters have died and everything. And I rewatch movies and like I have a hard time starting new shows. And so for me, I get very attached to the way that things are in my books because in my head, like that's just the way it happened. That is it. It's like a mathematical equation. There's no like gray area. It's black and white. So I thought maybe writing like book 1 and then having to take the same characters into book 2 and like continuing to change them and have these like constantly evolving arcs would be hard for me. Um, but it's actually been really fun to be able to spend more time with these characters instead of just being done with them in one book because I definitely don't think I would have been satisfied with being done with these characters in just one book. I don't know if any of that made sense to anyone but my brain, but is the world big enough to where you would have to put a map in one of the books? I mean, I've thought about it. Actually, one of my beta readers did suggest that I make a map of the academy for book 1, but I didn't end up doing that. So I don't think it's necessary. And personally, I mean, some people really like maps in the books. Personally, as a reader, I don't even like I mean, I look at them when I turn past them, but I don't ever like go back to like reference them. So I just didn't end up doing it. But I could put a map in there. Here you love Sweden. I'm sorry. I had such a good time in Sweden. It's a Denmark. She might like you just as much. That's true. I have never been there. So maybe I just don't even know what I don't know. Well, thanks so much for coming and chatting with me. If you have any other questions, let me know. We have been on here for like an hour. I will double check to make sure there's nothing else on the Instagram story, but I think unless anyone added anything new. Well, thanks for reading these. Also, like immediately, if you're here, you've already read book 2 immediately after it came out. I'm sorry that you have to wait so long for book 3 now, but I appreciate the people who read the books as soon as they come out. I know a lot of people are waiting for the entire series to release first, which is understandable, but also, you know, from author's perspective in traditional publishing or self-publishing, if no one buys the books when they release, a lot of times series don't even get to finish. So I appreciate the people who pick up the books immediately. I really, really do. Could you see yourself writing a spinoff? Absolutely, because like I was saying, I have a hard time letting things go. So I feel like part of the reason why I'm also thinking maybe this series will be longer than 4 books, I think is because the idea of being done at book 4 makes me sad. Like I'm not ready to let go of this series. I'm not ready to let go of these characters. But also the last thing I want to do is like stretch this out longer than it needs to be, you know? Those like TV shows that go on and it kind of ruins it for you because it didn't need to be that long. So I don't want to make this series any longer than it needs to be. But I would definitely be down for a spinoff. I just have no idea what character I would follow. Let me know. Once we get into the later books, you'll meet even more characters, so maybe get more spinoff potential with them. But I also love reading spinoff series. You know, one of the series that I've been comparing this series to is Vampire Academy, which I love so much. And the spinoff series to that, Bloodlines, I love. Like, I love Bloodlines even more than I loved Vampire Academy. So I think having something similar where I did some kind of spin-off in the vein of Bloodlines would be really fun for me, especially because I've been comparing this to Vampire Academy. Thanks, Sam. I hope you feel better. But yeah, if we don't have any more questions, I guess that'll be it for today. I'll let you get back to your Saturday. Yeah, so the links for the hardcover, if you want to get the special edition, are slowly popping up. I know Amazon is still showing up as unavailable, so I'm hoping that will finish processing soon. If you want to know when all of them are live, I will send out a newsletter. But other than that, I don't really think I have anything coming up for you to keep your eyes out for. I tend to announce things on here and on Instagram stories and on my newsletter. But I think that's going to be it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for reading the books. I am thrilled that people have been enjoying them as much as I've been enjoying them. Well, see, a spin-off of Reed would just be like, he would still be with Valerie, unless you want like a prequel with Reed before all of this happened, because I do know all of his backstory to like an embarrassingly like intricate level. So we could do that. You will learn a lot more about his backstory in book 3 actually too, which will be fun. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you guys have a nice day or evening, whatever time it is for you. I don't know what happened to Dean. He didn't really stick around with us. But yeah, I'll just talk to you guys in my next video, which should be going up relatively soon. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Thanks.